And how we doing, everybody? Hello. Welcome to another episode of Monster Territory, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Hope you all had a great weekend, and we're about to have a very fun start to the week. It is opening day week, ladies and gentlemen. I am very excited for it. This is honestly, it's one of my favorite times of the year. Obviously, I'm a big Christmas guy. I love me some Thanksgiving. I love all the holidays and whatnot. But opening day for me is like a holiday. There's just a different feeling in the air. That opening day morning, it's always great. You wake up and you're just excited for a full slate of games on. And of course, the Red Sox playing. They'll be playing the Rangers on opening day, but they have a little bit of business to take care of before then. They're going to Mexico. They're doing a series there, and that should be pretty fun. But we got some pretty fun news here just a little earlier. If you are listening to this in the morning, last night we got some news. Kristian Campbell, it looks like, will be making the opening day roster, going to be the second baseman for the Red Sox on opening day. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that in this episode. We're going to be talking about the fifth starter for the Red Sox. A pretty surprising name, a name that we weren't really thinking about going in to spring training. We'll talk about that as well. Some other little roster moves as well. We had some cuts over the weekend. The Red Sox, they still have a lot of cuts to make. When it comes to the 40-man roster, that's not fully announced yet. We should be hearing something by tomorrow, I would imagine. But we'll go through that. And I'm going to give you my predictions for the Red Sox this year. I'm going to go through 5, and some of them I think are pretty juicy. I'm going to try and stay realistic with them when it comes to any kind of predictions. They're usually wrong for the most part, but I think I think maybe I'll hit on a couple of these. I'm feeling pretty good about them. But before I do get started, if you are with us live on YouTube, hit the like button for us and subscribe if you're new. We were trying to get to 4K by opening day. I don't know if that's going to happen at this point, but if you are looking for more Red Sox coverage on the daily, definitely subscribe to Monster Territory. We are going to be doing post-game shows after every single game. Very excited for that this coming season. And if you are with us in audio format, leave us a 5-star review. It really does help out with the algorithm. But without further ado, let's get to tonight's sponsor, and that is Arena Club. I'm going to let the guys over at Foul Territory take over on that one.
FT fam, if you love ripping packs of cards, there is a modern way to do that now on Arena Club with their slab packs and crats. I know you love ripping slab packs and getting that sweet card that you've always been looking for.
Yeah, and you don't have to go through all the other ones, all the Kratz cards that are in there. Bang, you just get the big one, the one that you're just peeking right around the corner when you open that pack, the one you expect to get.
Also, Arena Club will make you an instant offer for your card based on its market value. You'll get an instant offer of 90% of the estimated value, so you can accept it on the spot, simple, fast, and risk-free. Use that cash to buy more slab packs, and you can get your cards officially graded by Arena Club. So go check it out right now, FT fam. You can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and then use the code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/FOUL, code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase. Get after it, FT fam.
Alrighty. Thank you to the guys over at Foul Territory for that one. Again, Arena Club. Go check it out. They got a great deal going. 20% when you use the code FOUL. But let's get to the juicy news here. We got Kristian Campbell. According to Ari Alexander, he says here on Twitter, Kristian Campbell has been informed he's made the Red Sox opening day roster. I mean, that's just a cool moment, man. We all know how it's been for the last few years. Not a whole lot of winning. We had 2021. You had, I call it the last gasp of the 2018 Red Sox. You still had a few players from that team. Ended up being just a pretty solid team all the way around. They made a good run in the postseason against the Astros. But since then, not really a whole lot of good things. You had Trevor Story after that. A couple little fun moments, right? But never really anything when it came to actual winning. So to see something like this, but getting back to the last few years, we've had the one thing that we could latch onto, even though they weren't really winning all that much at the major league level, were these prospects coming up, the big three. At one point, Kyle Teal was involved, and obviously he was moved for Garrett Crochet. But when it comes to the big three that is remaining, we got one of them making the opening day roster. We've been hearing a lot of things about Kristian Campbell over the last couple of years, last year especially. The numbers this guy put up last year was absolutely incredible. I mean, he was just tearing it up in the minor leagues. I mean, if we were to go take a look at those numbers in the minor leagues, I mean, the guy was just off the charts, hitting .330, a .439 on base, a .558 slugging, a .997 OPS overall. He had a 2020 season. He had 20 home runs, 24 stolen bases. This is a guy, he just showed all he could at every level in the minor leagues. I mean, everywhere he went, he dominated, right? He was adjusting to the good pitching that he was seeing as he went further and further through the minor league system. To me, I mean, sure, there's going to be a lot of people that will say, no, you're rushing him. You need to start him at the minor league level, at AAA to start off the year. Don't rush the guy. There's no need. But to me, the way I look at it is, if he has proven everything he has that there is to prove at the minor league level, sure, maybe you would like a bigger sample size at AAA, but I mean, when you look at it, right, 19 games at AAA, I mean, the guy had a .412 on base, he had 4 home runs, I mean, a .486 on the slugging at AAA. It's like, what else really, sure, could he start there? Maybe you go there for, 20 or so games. Sure, but you've seen everything, right? It's not just about the stat line. It's about how he's approaching the at-bats. It's about the quality of contact. What's the bat speed looking like? Things that they were looking at this spring, but they already saw these things. They're obviously very high on Kristian Campbell because of what we have seen so far, not just on the surface level when it came to the stats, but the underlying metrics as well. The Red Sox are very heavy on the analytics, and we've been hearing about Kristian Campbell all spring. We've been hearing this possibility for a little while now. Going into the late offseason, you were hearing, from the beat reporters for the Red Sox that Kristian Campbell, was someone that they were looking at internally. And yeah, he got off to a pretty bad start this spring, but that's okay, right? It's how you finish that I think matters. And when you look at what he's been able to do over the last several games now, getting on base, in the last 6 games, he's had a home run, a double along the way. He's, he had a few games there in the beginning of the spring where, he was looking like, okay, maybe AAA to start off the year might not be a bad idea. But you saw him getting a bit more comfortable, right? You started seeing him, get some quality contact, working the at-bats, working the walks a little bit. And sure, the overall slash line, it doesn't look great. 167, a 576 OPS. I get that. But it's really about, can this guy be a quality contributor at the major league level to start off the year? And could you go with someone like David Hamilton? I mean, I think you could. But, if you're looking to add, that right-handed bat to the lineup, to give you a little bit more at the bottom of the order there, I think with Campbell, there's more of a ceiling there. And I think if you can start him at the major league level, I think it's a good opportunity for him developmentally, right? Again, like I said, what else can you do at the minor leagues? What else do you need to see? Put him at the major league level. When you think about it, that's development in itself. I mean, could he go to the minor leagues? Sure. Get more development time? Sure. But in my opinion, getting those at-bats, getting that experience, getting that exposure to quality major league pitching, that's development in itself. Let's say he comes up, or he starts off the year, obviously, at second base with the Red Sox. He goes up against Evaldi opening day, however the Rangers rotation shakes out, maybe DeGrom, pitches one of those games, whatever it may be. Even if he ends up going 0-4, in the first 5 games, gets off to the start like Dustin Pedroia had back in 2007. I mean, is that, to me, I don't think that's really the worst thing at all, because he is seeing this kind of pitching. He's seeing this level. He's getting a taste of it. So let's say he gets off to a bad start and maybe, who knows, maybe even goes back down to the minor leagues at one point. I saw a couple of people saying, oh, no, this is going to, if he gets off to a bad start, this is going to wreck his confidence. I don't see Kristian Campbell. I think he's quietly confident, if that makes sense. You don't have to be loud and you don't have to be loud to show you're confident. This is a guy that believes in his game. He's always been a pretty humble guy, when you watch the interviews and whatnot, but there's kind of like that stoicism around him as well. I think this is a guy that he's not going to get affected by it. But again, let's say gets off to the bad start. I don't think that's going to be the worst thing, because in the end, you're going to be seeing guys like Nathan Eovaldi. And to me, that's development in itself. And hey, if he gets off to a great start, I think he's going to be okay in the end. Then hey, that's even better. But I think this is going to be a good thing for him. I think this is the right move to make, especially when Vaughn Grissom wasn't really, doing what he had to do to take the job, right? If he had a good spring, if this guy was hitting great, then I think maybe we're having a different conversation at this point. But he didn't get the job done. Vaughn definitely had an opportunity. Alex Cora, when he spoke to me, a couple of months ago, he said, hey, I think Vaughn Grissom deserves a mulligan, right? They wanted to give him every chance, and they did give him every chance. He got a lot of at-bats this spring. In the end, he just didn't perform. And I say for him, it's a good thing to go start the year at AAA, try and get into a bit of a rhythm. Alex Cora, he commented on this as well, saying, and I mentioned this too, he said he, spoke with Vaughn saying, hey, go take care of business down in the minor leagues. And hey, if you get an opportunity, whether that's with us or, I don't know the exact quote, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, hey, you can maybe have your shot with us, maybe even another team out there, right? He was mentioning how, hey, teams, there's other teams in the industry, right? So if he gets off to a good start and gets into a good rhythm, then maybe he could be a trade piece for the Red Sox. But Vaughn Grissom, again, he didn't do nearly enough. And to me, I think it just makes more sense when you have a high ceiling guy like Campbell, go with him over Vaughn Grissom and even David Hamilton, right? Because if you go back over the last couple of years, the one thing the Red Sox have been focusing on is challenging these young players. That is a big thing. If you want to get better, you got to get uncomfortable. You got to challenge yourself. That's just life, right? And I think to me, this is the best thing for his development. And I think he's going to be a guy that he accepts that challenge, and I think he's going to do a lot of good things. I'm very happy about this move. I'm very happy for him. Being 22 years old, very young, but to have this kind of an opportunity, what a great moment for him, for him and his family. I think that's just so cool. You're 22 years old and you're saying, hey, I just made the Red Sox. Like, holy crap, that's insane. I love this for him. But for the Red Sox, I think, but another thing too, why I think there's a good chance he's going to have success is it's not like this guy is going to be in the middle of the order. He's going to bat towards the bottom of the order. I would imagine he's going to be somewhere, either 6th or 7th in the lineup, however that shakes out. So, they're going to be able to kind of hide him a little bit down there. There's not going to be a lot of pressure on him. He can kind of just do his thing. But again, when it comes down to challenging these guys, I think this is the right challenge at the right time, if that makes sense. Now, moving on here, we do have some other news to talk about. And when it comes to the rotation, we got a pretty surprising candidate emerging as the 5th starter. We've been talking about how the Red Sox pitching staff, you got so much depth here. You've had some guys that are a little behind, right? Brian Bayo, Lucas Giolito, Cutter Crawford, right? These guys, they're going to take a little longer to make their way back to the Red Sox. So you've been looking at some candidates like Richard Fitts. He has now officially been named for the rotation. Very excited about Mr. Richard Fitts this coming year. But then for the 5th spot, you've been looking at guys like Quinn Priester, who they acquired for at the trade deadline for Nick York. You've been looking at maybe even Cooper Criswell, a guy that showed some pretty good things with the Red Sox last year as like a swing man kind of a guy. Or there's been a guy that came to the Red Sox as a spring training invite, Sean Newcomb. Now, when it comes to Sean Newcomb, I mean, this is a guy where, if you go back, he was back to 2014. He was the 15th pick in the 2014 draft by the Angels, right? But in his career, minus a couple of seasons, hasn't really been able to do much, right? When you go back to 2018 with the Braves, did have some pretty good numbers, right? ERA under a 4. The FIP was just a little bit higher. Then later on, 2019, a year later, this is when he started pitching more in relief. And he was doing pretty well then. But, along the way, he's had injuries. He went to Oakland not too long ago. He was doing, he had a very small sample in 2023. I can't remember what the injury was he had. But he had some okay numbers at that time. But not really a whole lot. You would think from a first round draft pick, you would see a little bit more over the years, but he just hasn't really been able to fully find himself. But with the Red Sox this spring, man, this guy's really figured something out. My goodness, 14 and a third innings, ERA at a 0.63, FIP at a 2.58. Now, if we were to go here to Sean Newcomb over on StatCast, if you're with me live on YouTube, I appreciate you stopping by and watching the live show. But if we were to go to the pitch repertoire, at least from last year, right? It's a pretty small sample from last year. He led the way with the fastball. He had a -2 run value on it. Batters are hitting .385 against it with a .692 slugging. Again, small sample, 16 plate appearances. But this is a guy where, if you take a look here, his sinker was looking pretty good. Had a +1 run value on there. Again, small sample. But this is a guy who has led with the 4-seamer in his career. But he has shown some pretty good. His sinker, if you go back over the last several years, has been a pretty quality pitch for him for the most part. He started throwing it back in 2021, and he's had success with it, but he wasn't really throwing it all that much. And the Red Sox, they saw this, and they said, well, hey, his 4-seamer's not really working out all that much. Let's lead with the sinker instead, go with a different game plan, and hey, at least right now, this is working out. And hey, you know what? If this guy's pitching well and you have an opportunity to go, to start Quinn Priester at the AAA level, which I think makes more sense, right? There is still some upside with Quinn Priester, another former high draft pick, acquired just recently by the Red Sox last year. I say start the year at AAA. A guy like Quinn Priester, he's, again, upside, but he hasn't been able to fully find his way with the Red Sox, or at least last year, it was pretty up and down, but, with the Pirates, not really able to find his way. I say start the year at AAA. You've got a fresh start to the year with your new organization full-time. I say that's the best move for him to get some starts with the Woo Sox, build yourself up, and then when an opportunity comes up down the road, then you can maybe take that, you can go that avenue. But I think right now, I think it makes sense to go with someone like Newcomb. If he's having success in spring so far, and the numbers are looking very good. Obviously the ERA looks good, but the strikeout per 9, it's fine. 8 strikeouts per 9, under 2 walks per 9. That's also something in his career he has struggled with. So I'm guessing he made some kind of a mechanical tweak along the way to kind of help improve his command. But under 2 walks per 9 this spring over 5 games, hey, you know what? Ride the hot hand right now. And you know what? And if he ends up getting lit up over the next month or whatever, then okay, you can just cut ties. Or, if he wants to go back, if he accepts the invitation back to, go back down to the minor leagues or whatever ends up happening there, then great. But I'd say right now, if he's pitching well and he's in a groove, then ride the hot hand, and that way, Quinn Priester, he can go get just a good start at AAA, keep working on whatever he's working on. I was thinking, Cooper Criswell could have been a guy just because of what he did for the Red Sox last year. He, even Cora sort of mentioned that a little when he was talking about the 5th starter. The way he didn't fully say Sean Newcomb is the 5th starter, but the way he kind of worded it sort of seemed like they were leaning heavily in that direction. But he did mention Cooper Criswell. But I think with Coop, that this was a guy, again, last year, he showed a lot of good things. So I was thinking, all right, well, maybe, he could be the guy, right? Now, it's interesting when it comes to the bullpen, right? Now, that seems to be kind of where, that's where the last couple of spots are going to get interesting, right? So Chris Castillo, he did say out here, or put out here today on Twitter, saying 4 spots for 6 pitchers. You got Newcomb, Criswell, Zach Kelly, Brennan Bernardino, Greg Weissert, and Brian Mata. He did say later on that Mata is going to be going to AAA, so he's going to be out of the picture. Mata, this is a guy I really hope we see him, right? Former top pitching prospect for the Red Sox, guy with good velo, good stuff. I really hope he finds his way this year, and I would love to see him contribute. That was a name we were just, we were hearing about for so long, and you saw potential there, but he was just getting hurt constantly, never able to figure it out. But I hope we see him at some point. So really, again, he mentioned Mata later on going to AAA. So it's really 4 spots for 6 pitchers. Well, actually, I think you can just say 3 spots for 4 pitchers at this point. So we know Newcomb is going to be on the roster. So basically what happens here, you got Criswell, you got Kelly, you got Bernardino, and you got Weissert. All right. So for me, if I'm going with a couple of these guys, right? Again, we know Newcomb's going to be the 5th guy most likely. So how does this shake out? I think Bernardino I think there's a possibility he could go back down to AAA, because when you look at the Red Sox bullpen as of right now, it depends on how they want to do it, right? If Chapman is the closer, right? So does that matter that really, he's a lefty? I mean, so I'd say, Chapman being a lefty, you take that out of the equation. But your only lefty is Justin Wilson. So I think if they want to have a couple of lefties, then you probably stick with Bernardino. It just depends on how they want to do it. Do they see Chapman as being a lefty? Obviously he's a lefty, but do they see him being that kind of a guy that can come in? Is there a possibility that Chapman could come in like the 8th inning on some outings or whatever, or are they just going to stick with him as the closer just moving forward? Depends on how they do it. But I would say if that is the case, if Chapman is your 9th inning guy, well, then I could definitely see them having Justin Wilson and Brennan Bernardino at that point. So I think there's a good chance Bernardino is going to be with the team. Now, when it comes to Zach Kelly or maybe even Cooper Criswell, I think that's interesting, because who gets that long man spot? Well, here's the thing. All right, Cooper Criswell, right now, his numbers haven't been great this spring. He's been giving up a lot of home runs, over 2 home runs per 9. Very small sample, but he hasn't been pitching as well as Zach Kelly this spring. Right now, Kelly, he's got a very good strikeout to walk ratio, ERA at 2.35, FIP at 2.07. So Kelly has been pitching better. So it's going to be interesting. Listen, if you're going with pure performance out of spring, I would imagine Kelly would be the guy. But if you're looking at it from an options point of view, where, again, it doesn't really matter, since obviously one of them are going to be optioned. But if that is something that comes into play, well, Cooper Criswell, he has 1 option left, while Zach Kelly has 2. So could that be something that, is a deciding factor there, where Kelly, he has a bit more flexibility, so they could send him to the AAA level, and then they keep Cooper Criswell in the long relief role. So I think it's going to be one of them. I do think Greg Weissert is going to be in this bullpen. I don't see why he wouldn't be in this bullpen. So yeah, I think it's going to come down to Kelly and Cooper Criswell. I'll say they probably keep Bernardino in that mix. I don't know. It really comes down to how, again, they see the options, right? Because Kelly has a couple of options, that makes him a little bit more flexible. And if they send Criswell, well, I guess that would use an option, right? So, and then he would have no options left. So I don't know how they're going to work that. Now, as for, Chris Castillo does mention here, One position player spot likely for Campbell. He says Sogard, Toro, Eaton, wild cards if not. I don't know. I probably just don't really see too much going on there. I would say for the bench right now, you got Narvaez, you got Romy, you got Hamilton, you got Ref Snyder. I don't really see those other guys breaking the bench at all. But, I think right now what we're seeing here on Fangraphs, the lineup, you got Jarren Duran, Rafael Devers, Bregman, Casas, Story. They have Campbell in the 6th spot here on Fangraphs, and they got Wilyer Abreu as the lefty. I actually think you'll probably see Wilyer Abreu batting 6th because you have Story, Campbell, back-to-back righties. Abreu breaks that up, and obviously Campbell, like I said, you're probably better off leaving him towards the bottom of the order, takes the pressure off of him. So I'll say Wilyer probably bats 6th, Campbell bats 7th, and then you got Wong, Rafaela, and to round out the order. And then the bench, like I just mentioned there, Narvaez, Gonzalez, Hamilton, Snyder. The rotation right now, Crochet, Houck, Buehler, Fitz, and Newcomb. And then the bullpen, Chapman, Hendricks, Slayton, Whitlock, Weissert, Wilson, Bernardino, and Zach Kelly or Cooper Griswold, however they do that. So we'll see. But I think pretty much we have a good idea of what this roster is looking like here. So it's going to be interesting moving forward here, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be interesting. But let's get to a few things here. Let's get to a few things when it comes to some predictions. But let me take a quick look here at some comments. What are you guys talking about here in the chat? What do we got going on? Now, I saw one earlier. I want to respond to this one from John. He says, Robbie, are you still at the beach? Yes, I went to the beach this past weekend, everybody. I got away for a weekend, just drove down south a little bit, the West Palm, went to the beach there. I got to tell you, I'm as pale as can be. My goodness, me and the sun, we do not cooperate. But I got to say, the beach, it's pretty nice. It feels just good, getting in the salt water, kind of laying out, listening to the waves. It really decompresses you. And I figured, okay, opening day is this coming week. It's a busy week. So yeah, I got to the beach. It was also, it was the girlfriend's birthday as well. She wanted to go to the beach. So it worked out. But no, I am no longer at the beach anymore. I am home. What else are we saying? I saw someone in the chat talking about Marcelo Meyer. Now, that's something I should have mentioned earlier when talking about Kristian Campbell. I gave you all the reasons why I like that. But here's why I like Marcelo Meyer starting the year at AAA. I think that's going to be better. Yes, Meyer had a great spring. But to me, Meyer, he's a shortstop. Yes, he could play second base. There's no denying that. But I think Meyer, especially with his year ending last year with a back injury, I say start the year at AAA. I know he just started off very well here in spring, and he had a great spring, yes. But I say keep getting consistent at bats down there. Really keep finding your rhythm. I think Meyer will eventually find himself with the Red Sox this year. You're going to have some injuries. Someone's going to go down. Could that be Story? I really hope not. I really want Trevor Story to just have just a great year with the Red Sox. I'm hoping for it. I'm praying for it. I'm just praying the guy stays healthy, man. Goodness gracious. I need Trevor Story to finally have himself a good year. But I'm okay with Meyer getting some consistent at-bats. And if anyone goes down, he's going to get called upon. So I'm excited for that. But what else we got here? Ian, I want Slayton as the closer. Yeah, I could see Slayton at some point getting some opportunities. I think they're going to start the year with Chapman as the closer. I think they're going with the experience there. I'm okay with that, honestly. Yes, Chapman, he has given many people heart attacks over the years. He has he's definitely come up short in some big spots over the years, but this is a guy that's had a ton of success as a closer. So I'm okay with going with that experience and letting it kind of work itself out. And if Slayton gets that opportunity at some point, I think that's great, right? Chapman, I feel like they're going to give him a decent leash if things start going a bit haywire in the beginning. If he blows a save in the beginning of the year, like in April, I don't think they're just going to remove him from the closer role just like that. I think it would have to take a few saves blown for them to make that kind of a move. I think he'll have I don't want to say a long leash. I don't want to say a short leash. I'll go like a medium-sized leash. Maybe like low medium, But they'll give him his opportunities. But Chapman, I'm okay with that. Slayton, if that happens, I'm cool with that too. So the bullpen, I think, is going to be the interesting part of the team to pay attention to this year. I'm hoping it doesn't turn into like a 2003 Red Sox situation where you had the closer by committee, and my goodness, and that's what led to Keith Folk, and you know how that went. My goodness, that bullpen from 2003 will always break my heart. What else we got? Joel, are you worried about Houck? That's interesting. There's not really a whole lot being said about Tanner Houck. I'm not right now, because obviously he had the good year. Now, Tanner Houck, I mean, he has gotten roughed up a little bit. I kind of wonder if maybe he was just playing around with some things this spring, because we all saw the success he had last year. ERA at a 3.12, FIP at a 3.32. Obviously, he figured something out. Maybe, he could be working through some mechanical things right now. That's possible. Remember, he kind of made some tweaks mechanically last offseason, before 2024, and obviously that led to some success. So I think it could be, maybe he's playing around with a couple of things, trying to find his comfort level. I'm not worried about Houck right now, but, if he starts kind of stringing together a few outings where he's getting lit up, I think I'll get a little worried then. Right now, I'm not. I'd say I'm at like a 2 out of 10, if 10 is like absolute panic. I'm at like a 2. I'll pay attention to it, but I'm not going too crazy right now. The most important thing, I think, one number from this spring is he hasn't really given up the long ball this spring. Over 13 and 2/3, 1 home run allowed. So if he was kind of like leaving stuff over the plate, I'd be a little concerned about that. His walk rate isn't really too high. He's at a 3.29 walk rate this spring, which I think is healthy. That's a little high from what it was in 2024. So yeah, if he was leaving stuff over the plate, if he was walking a whole bunch of guys, then yeah, like I'd maybe have a little bit more concern, but he's just not really racking up the strikeouts. So that's where I kind of think he was maybe playing around with some stuff. I'm not too worried. But everyone, let's get to some predictions here. I got my predictions here for 2025. I'm pretty excited to share these with you. Now, on my main channel, I just came out with my 2025 predictions. If you have not seen those yet, go check those out. They're all going to be wrong. They are always wrong. That's why I always find the comments section so funny, because people take these predictions like personally, and they get angry, and then they get so it's like they get offended. It's like, I don't know. Like, you get some mean comments in predictions. It's like, they're predictions, everybody. I mean, I'm not, I don't got a crystal ball here. I don't know what's going to end up happening. But this is the first time I've done Red Sox predictions. So I've come up with 5. And let's have some fun with this. My first one. We got here Roman Anthony. Let me make sure I got the buttons working here. Make sure I got the buttons. I don't think. Oh, I made a little goofy goof. I think I made a little goofy goof. Let me go back to this screen. Hold on. Okay, so we're gonna have to stay on this screen. Here we go. So we got Roman Anthony here, and here's my prediction. I don't know why my stuff is not working right now. Of course, my stuff's not working. So, first prediction, Roman Anthony. I think at some point this year, he will be the starting right fielder for the Boston Red Sox. Listen, I love that Wilyer has, gotten himself right here in spring. He just homered not too long ago. He battled, a pretty decent illness this past offseason, gastrointestinal illness. He lost a lot of weight. But, hey, he said coming into spring, hey, he'll be fine by opening day. Get him some at-bats, and he'll be good to go. He even said the weight loss actually helped him in a way, kind of helped his, mobility. He's, feeling lighter. So I appreciate and respect that. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. We all know Roman Anthony's knocking on the door. This guy looked very good this spring. Now, he ended up kind of tailing towards where he had a lot of success in the beginning of spring, the first half, but then he got sick. All right. And then, he ended up losing some weight, right? He was hitting very well in the early going. And then after he came back, you started to see his numbers dip a little bit, right? Ended up right now, he's at a 206 batting average, a 715 OPS, but his on-base percentage is a 391. That to me is a very good sign for Roman Anthony. The fact that when you looked at how he was approaching his at-bats this spring, I mean, the guy looked like he had been there, done that, right? He just had like this presence at the plate. There's just something about him. He just looked the part this spring. And, yes, he got he got sick, missed time. So that kind of messed with his mojo a little bit. I think he's going to go back down to AAA. I think he's going to get himself into a rhythm. And the one thing with Wilyer, it's, no disrespect to Wilyer, but the one thing I'm a little concerned about is how he is against left-handed pitching. Right? We know he can do damage against righties, right? He showed a lot of good things last year at the plate against right-handed pitching. But I wonder, yes, we did just see a home run recently from Wilyer, but, spring training is one thing. How is Wilyer going to do in the early part of the year? How is he going to do in the first couple of months? I don't know, especially the fact that he didn't get more at-bats and more opportunities against left-handed pitching this spring. So that's where I just wonder. And with Roman, I think at some point he's going to heat up. He's going to get himself right. This is a guy, I think right now, if he had not gotten sick, I think there was a very realistic chance this guy could have made the team. I'm not kidding. I think this guy is going to do so well with the Red Sox. But I do think at some point we're going to see a bit of a Jacoby Ellsbury situation from what we saw back in 2007, where he was knocking on the door. Coco Crisp, he was a little up and down. And Jacoby, he got called up, I believe, later in June. And then, eventually he started getting into a bit of a flow, and he ended up taking over center field in the postseason, right? I think you're going to see a similar situation with Roman. I just think with what he brings to the table from a plate discipline point of view, with what he can do, with just, my goodness. I mean, you just go to the spring breakout game. Look at the home run that he hit in that game. I mean, my goodness, I still don't think that ball's come down yet. This guy can do absolute damage with the bat, but I think the difference maker could be where he can hit both lefties and righties. And I wonder if that's something the Red Sox are going to see. And if Wilyer is struggling, they could turn to Roman, especially if he's hot. So that's something to pay attention to this year. Very, very excited for Roman. And I do think at some point he will be the right fielder for the Red Sox in 2025 or left field, however they do it. I'm not sure how they do it, but here we go. Next prediction here. Next prediction. We got Rafi Devers here on the screen. We got Rafi. And I'm going to say this right now, ladies and gentlemen, I think Rafi, he's going to have himself a great year as the DH. And for the first time in his career, he will hit 40 home runs. Now, Rafi, his career high in home runs is 38 back in 2021, over 156 games. He was very good back that year. He had 279, a 352 on base, a 538 slugging. We had, the bit of drama when it came to third base, right, with Rafi. I mean, Alex Bregman at third base, it's a no-brainer. There was the conversation, maybe Bregman could be at second, but when we started hearing about Kristian Campbell, the Red Sox being high on him, it looked inevitable that Bregman was going to be the third baseman, and then you didn't even see Bregman play one game at second base. At one point, I thought, okay, well, they're just waiting for Rafi to come back. Because remember, he missed time in the beginning of spring, and then they would maybe make that move. But as time went on, you didn't see Bregman at second base, right? So Rafi, he's going to be the DH moving forward. I think he will play. I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe the Red Sox are completely... they're completely shutting it down. Have we seen Rafi play his last game at third base? I think that could be a possibility. I'm going to leave the door open for him playing there, on a slight part-time basis, but I don't see the point, especially if Campbell is hitting. If he is able to, keep up what he's doing, then I don't see a situation where Devers is playing third. Or the only way I could see it happening is if KC struggles mightily and they have to make a move. But then in that situation, I wonder, do you just put David Hamilton at second base? Or if Vaughn Grissom's hitting well, do you go to him? I think there's a very real chance here that we have seen Rafi play his last game at third base. Now, I saw Section 10. Love those guys. I don't remember who said this, but I saw someone say, I can't remember who said it, but if Rafi was asked to play third base, would he say no? And I don't remember who said it, but I think he said that he thinks that Rafi would turn it down. I don't think he would. I think, to me, if the Red Sox, if Cora needs, let's say, I don't know, Bregman pulls a hammy or something and they need Rafi in an emergency situation to play third, I think he will, right? Again, you got to do what's best for the team. But getting back to the point here, I think we have seen the last of Rafi at third, minus maybe a couple of starts possibly, or whatever it may be. But I think now that he can focus on the bat, and I think now that he can just focus on the hitting, he's going to stay healthy. All right, the last couple of years, Rafi in the second half, he's been dinged up by injuries. I think he's going to be healthy. He's going to be able to focus on the bat. He came so close to 40 home runs back in 2021. I think this year he's going to knock 40 out of the park. I think he's going to have a great year at the plate. I think he's going to be an absolute force at the plate. And you got to remember with Rafi, this guy right now is firmly in the prime of his career, 28 years old. I think we're going to have a monster year from Rafi Devers at the DH spot. For the next prediction, let's see what we got. We got Ryan Helsley here on the screen. Why is Ryan Helsley on the screen? He's not even on the Red Sox. I mean, so what does this even mean? Well, here's my prediction. I think at some point the Red Sox are going to make a move to add a closer to the back end of the bullpen. Like we just talked about, Chapman, he's going to get the first go. If he ends up struggling, maybe a few saves, a few blown saves, that's when I think they'll start looking at other options. That's when I think you could turn to Justin Slayton or Liam Hendricks if he's got himself right. Maybe even Garrett Whitlock, whatever it may be. But I feel like the Red Sox, there's going to be some dancing around in that bullpen. I just have this weird feeling about it. I think there's a chance someone like Slayton could take over the role and hold on to it. You just don't know. The ninth inning is a different animal. It just is, right? I think Slayton had... How many saves did Slayton have last year? I'm going a little blank. I think he had 1 or 2. Let me see here. I think he had 2 saves. He had 2 saves last year. So, but on a full-time basis, how are they going to respond to that? I don't know. It's a different animal in itself. You never know. So, yeah, I think Slayton has the stuff to be the closer. But is that something that he can handle on a game-to-game basis? We don't know the answer to that. I'm not saying he can't. We just don't fully know. I think he has... Absolutely, he can definitely do it. He has shown, obviously, with what he can do on the mound, that I think there's a very real chance he could be a very good closer at one point. But I don't know. Just not sure about it as of right now. Liam Hendricks has not looked good so far right now. I'm not sure, what's going to happen with that velo moving forward. Is he going to get his stuff fully back to what we've seen in the past? I don't know. I'm going to go with the prediction that there's going to be guys kind of moving around, trying to find roles in that bullpen. And I feel like that's something they're going to be trying to figure out for the first couple of months. I hope I'm wrong because I'd rather have guys in roles. But I feel like they're going to make a move for a closer at one point. Ryan Helsley is going to be the top option when it comes to the relief market by the deadline. And one other thing I think about, it is with the St. Louis Cardinals. Supposedly, they had a trade basically completed for Nolan Arenado if they didn't sign Alex Bregman. So they've had conversations here with the Cardinals, so you have that interaction already. So I think that's very possible that you can make a move there. If not him, depending on what happens with the Padres, maybe someone like Robert Suarez, I think could be an option. Depending on what happens with the Giants, could someone like Camille Duvall, who was a closer at one point, I think he's going to have a bounce back year. His metrics look pretty good, but he was having some trouble with his command last year. But if the Giants are kind of in a place where, they're not really fully in it, maybe someone like Camille Duvall could be available at some point. Kyle Finnegan, he just returned to the Nationals on a one-year deal. I'm not expecting the Nationals to be competing, but if he's doing well, I could see him being a possibility. But whatever, I'm going to make that prediction. I think the Red Sox at some point, they're going to want to bolster the back end of the bullpen. I think someone like Helsley would be amazing. I mean, could you imagine? Helsley's your closer. Chapman and Slayton are your setup guys. And then you got, Hendricks and Whitlock and, all these other guys in the mix in that bullpen. What a nasty bullpen that would be. But that's a prediction I got. I think the Red Sox will add a closer at some point. We'll see what happens. Next up. Garrett Crochet. Why is Garrett Crochet on the screen? Ladies and gentlemen, I think Garrett Crochet is going to win the Cy Young this year. I'm feeling pretty good about Mr. Garrett Crochet. You got to remember, last year with the White Sox, first year in the rotation, after getting Tommy John, coming back from Tommy John, and it was his first year in the rotation. This guy was an absolute madman last year. What he did in the first half, he did fade a little bit in the second half. I'll get to that in a second, but the overall numbers this guy put up last year were phenomenal. 32 starts, 2.69 on the FIP compared to a 3.58 on the ERA. I buy the FIP more because the White Sox are just a bad team, bad defense, right? That was not helping out behind him. But I'm looking at the strikeout to walk ratio. I mean, first off, let's look at the strikeout to walk ratio this spring. 17 strikeouts per 9 this spring. That is absolutely insane. I mean, I know it's spring, but holy cow, what a number. Now, he actually did walk a few guys this spring. 4.6 walks per 9. That translated to 8 walks in 15 2/3 innings. So he's going to clean that up a little bit. I think he's probably playing around with some stuff, trying to get guys to chase on a few things. Again, it's spring. But with the high amount of strikeouts this guy had last year, and just the overall numbers that he put up on a bad team, his first year in the rotation, first year pitching after Tommy John, and first time not being a reliever in the major leagues. The guy absolutely dominated. Yes, he did fade in the second half, but you got to remember, like I said, just coming back from TJ, first year in the rotation. I'm not surprised he had a little bit of fatigue going down the stretch. Stuff wasn't as crisp. He was getting hit a little bit harder. That's okay. He's had a full off season to get himself together. It was a great spring trading like we just saw. I hope they get an extension done. That'd be great. That would be very nice. Could that be a prediction in itself? You know what? I'll say they get something done at some point. I'll work that prediction in here as well. That I think they'll get something done eventually. What I know he has said, he would like to, if something gets done, he would like it to be by opening day. You never know. Maybe by the All-Star break, maybe something could happen then. Maybe the Red Sox are kind of like waiting a little bit, see how it goes in the first couple of months. And then maybe they make a phone call during the All-Star break. I could see something like that. I think eventually an extension will get done. But I think he will be the Cy Young. A lot of people are going with a back-to-back year or back-to-back years for Tarik Skubal. If Skubal's healthy, if he stays healthy this year, yeah, he's going to have a real shot at it. But I think Crochet, man, this guy I think is trending up. Skubal is still going to be dominant if healthy. But I think Crochet, man, I think he's going to take a big step forward this year with the Red Sox. The numbers were just ridiculous last year. And being in an environment like this as well, I think that's going to give him a little extra pep in his step. I'm excited for Garrett Crochet. Very excited. Now for the last prediction. Last prediction for the 2025 Red Sox. Well, you're probably asking me, well, Robbie, are the Red Sox going to win the World Series? What's going to happen? What's going to be the end result for the Red Sox in 2025? Well, I don't know if they're going to win the World Series, but I think they will, in some shape or form, have success in the postseason. Well, what does that mean? Well, what does that mean? Well, you never know. You never know how the postseason is going to shake out, right? It's a crapshoot. You just don't know. Right now, I have the Red Sox winning the division. That is going to be an absolute dogfight until the very end. I think the Orioles are going to be right there. I think the Yankees, they'll find their way in the mix, even though they've lost Garrett Cole. Stanton, who knows what's going on with him. Judge, if he ends up going down, remember, Judge, he has had some injuries. Yes, he's had some amazing seasons here over the last few years, but Judge, remember, at one point was an injury risk. Him and Giancarlo Stanton were having trouble staying on the field. So if anything happens with Judge, then I don't know, the Yankees are in real trouble. But I think in the end, the Yankees, they're gonna figure it out and they'll be in the mix in the end. I still have the Yankees as a wild card team, but when it comes to the division, you never know what could happen, especially when you got this much competition. And don't forget about the Blue Jays, right? They've added some talent this offseason. I think in the end, the Blue Jays, I'm not too high on them this year, even though they did do a lot this offseason. And the Rays, they're always pesky. So this is going to be a tough division. And the Orioles, I know a lot of people are very low on that pitching staff. And here's the thing. I think Baltimore's pitching staff can actually surprise some people this year. Yes, you don't have Corbin Burns. Here's the one thing I've noticed over the years. I feel like when everyone focuses on one talking point, I feel like a lot of the times it ends up kind of going the opposite. Like go back to last year. Remember the Red Sox pitching staff last year? Everyone was saying how bad it was. And then like all of a sudden the Red Sox had one of the best rotations in the game at one point. Right, the bullpen just completely blew up in the second half. Remember, everyone was talking about how good the Red Sox pitching was last year. In the offseason, we were all begging for Jordan Montgomery to get signed because we had no pitching. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I feel like whenever people focus on that one talking point, a lot of the times you tend to see the opposite happen. I think with the Orioles, yes, they lost Corbin Burns, and to replace him, you brought in Charlie Morton, Tomoyuki Sagano. Yes, Grayson Rodriguez, he's going through a bit of another arm issue. Grayson Rodriguez, my goodness, can that guy please just stay healthy? I think they're going to figure it out in the end. I think Eflin, remember, this guy a couple of years ago was very good. He was starting a postseason game for the Rays. Charlie Morton, he's had a lot of success. I know he's 41 years old, but the guy just keeps going and going and going. At the very least, he's going to be a guy that's going to be a good veteran presence for this pitching staff. Kramer is fine. He's going to give you the innings. Cade Povich, he's a bit of a wild card. Let's see. And not very good numbers last year. But I think Cade Povich could be a guy that ends up having some success. Young lefty there, about to turn 25 years old. He had a decent spring here. 3.07 ERA, 3.42 on the FIP, over 9 strikeouts per 9. 2.4 walks per 9. I think Povich could be a guy that could emerge this year. But one guy I got my eyes on is Tomoyuki Sagano. I feel like Sagano is a guy that no one's really thinking about. I think they look at the age, and he's coming over from Japan. I mean, listen, I don't think age is really that big of a deal, especially when you pay attention to the way he pitches. He's not a guy that's going to blow you away with stuff like Roki Sasaki. But he's a guy, what I like about Tomoyuki Sagano, he's like that classic kind of a pitcher. Honestly, he really reminds me a lot of Zach Greinke. A guy that's not going to blow you away with velocity, but a guy that plays chess out there on the mound. A guy that's going to just work the hitters, right? He's going to go inside. He's going to go outside. He's going to locate. He's going to throw different pitches in different situations. The guy throws a ton of strikes. He's a control artist. That's why he reminds me a lot of Zach Greinke. I think Sagano, coming over from Japan, none of these guys have seen him. I think that's going to take some adjustment, for guys to really start picking up on the scouting report with him. He's a guy that I think could have a very good first half for the Orioles this year. Again, because I just think naturally hitters are going to be building these scouting reports on these guys. And I think Sagano, I think he's going to be a guy that surprises some people in the first half. Again, not going to blow you away with stuff, but the guy knows how to pitch, and he has good enough stuff to get by. The real question is, Grayson Rodriguez, is he going to be back this year? I don't know, man. I hope, for his sake, I hope he is. I mean, the guy just keeps having arm problems. It looks like he's gotten away without any major structural damage. But the Orioles are going to work him back slow, right? They're basically starting from the beginning. But basically, my point here is I think the Orioles pitching staff is going to be better than you think. And if they make a trade at the deadline, maybe Sandy Alcantara, maybe the Padres, they're in sell mode. Maybe they move Dylan Cease, Michael King. And I think the Orioles, they're going to be a tough team. I could really see this Orioles team giving, a very good run this year because that lineup is still very good. Their bullpen, they're getting Felix Bautista back. I think there's a very real chance the Orioles win the division. I did go with the Red Sox when I came out with my predictions a couple of days ago. But you know what? I'm going to lean, with the Red Sox, whatever it may be, whether they win the division or get a wild card. I think the Red Sox are going to have success. I think if they win that division, I think they'll find a way to get by the first round somehow. I think Garrett Crochet, I think he's going to, very least, he'll have let's say he pitches in a wild card game or pitches like game one of the division round. I think that adrenaline is going to be huge for him. And I think he'll end up really helping out whatever first round it ends up being for the Red Sox, wild card or division. And I think the Red Sox they're just gonna have some good momentum going in. Now, the farthest I have the Red Sox going is the American League Championship. I know the American League is pretty wide open at this point, but one team that I really like this year are the Texas Rangers. I just really like that team. I just think they got just a good mix of just talent, just ball players. They just got some kind of a vibe to them, at least right now. You never know how things can turn out, but I just love they brought in a guy like Jock Peterson. That guy meshes with just any team out there. Just a dude. Just likes to hit the freaking baseball, hit the crap out of it. You know what I mean? You add him to guys like Seager and Semien, Wyatt Langford. I think he's going to have a monster year. I'm expecting big things from him. And if DeGrom is healthy, that's a big X factor here. DeGrom, if he stays healthy, that's going to be huge. Eovaldi, we all love Nathan Eovaldi. They completely overhauled that bullpen this offseason. I don't know. Right now, I just like the way the Rangers look. And I think, if everything goes accordingly, I think that team, if the Red Sox run into the Rangers in the postseason, I think that could be a very tough matchup. We're going to be seeing them on opening day, so that could be a bit of a preview. I did have the Red Sox and the Rangers in the American League Championship Series in my predictions. We'll see how that goes. But the Orioles, man, I think that could be a team that could win this division. I feel like the Yankees in the end will be a wild card team. Well, again, you just never know how this is going to work out. But I don't think the Red Sox are going to go to the World Series. I hate saying that. I would love for them to. I hope I'm wrong. That'd be great if they can do it. I think right now the Red Sox, they make it to the wild card round. I'll say this. If the Red Sox make it to the wild card round, I think they'll probably get knocked out in the division round. I think if you lose Crochet and whoever they go with in game 2, I think that's going to be tough going to the division round. Let's say they win the division. Let's say they're a top 2 team, one of the top 2 seeds. They get a bye. Then in the division round, yeah, I mean, again, I think if you have guys like Crochet, Buehler, Houck, I mean, yeah, that's going to be massive. The one thing I worry about with Crochet a little bit for a deep postseason run is, yes, he did get a lot of innings under his belt this past year, but he's going to pitch more innings this coming year, right? Let's say he gets 180 innings. That's going to be a career high for him, and then he's going to be pitching more in the postseason. So I just wonder from like a fatigue point of view if that could be an issue. I think adrenaline, whether that's a wild card start or a division round game 1, I think that could really carry, him in that situation. But then I think once things settle in, I do wonder if that could be an issue for a deep postseason run. It's kind of the way I look at it. I would love for the Red Sox to get to the World Series, but in the end, I feel like they're not going to fully get there. Hope I'm wrong. It'll be amazing if they can do it. I think they have a very good team. I think the Red Sox do make the postseason in 2025, whether that's a wild card or as a division winner. But we'll just have to wait and see on that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll just have to wait and see. But everyone, I am going to start wrapping things up here. I'm going to get out of here. I do want to thank you for joining me here. I went live with this one here tonight, and this will be in podcast format if you want to go take a listen later on, or you can just watch the replay here on YouTube. That works as well. But if you are here with us on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe if you're new. Again, we're going to be doing post-game shows after every single game this year. You don't want to miss it. I'm excited to do it. It's going to be a lot of fun this year, breaking down every single game. But also, podcast format. Even if you don't watch, or even if you don't listen in a podcast format, go give us a 5-star review. It really helps us out, helps out with the algorithm. But everybody, I'm going to wrap it up right there. Thank you for joining me tonight. If you're driving to work right now, go have yourself a good rest of your day. Everyone, go have a good start to your week. This is going to be a fun week. Opening day is finally here, everybody. We're so close. But everybody, go have yourself a good rest of your night, and I'll talk to you next time.